Welcome to Kansas City, American Trust Administrators headquarters. Today we're going to cover something that is near and dear to all of our hearts. Experts in our industry, in any industry, know the history of the industry that they choose to work in. Today we're going to go through a little bit of the history, a little bit of the nuance of our industry, what we choose to dedicate our time to, our professional careers, and help people inside of the level-funded health industry. All right, today we're going to go through a bit of the history of level funding and how we got from the hodgepodge of a market that we had way back in the day when people were trading chickens for care to today, where we have one of the most complicated and convoluted industries in the history of man. How did we go from there to here, and exactly what decisions were made in the process, and what's beautiful and what's broken? All right, without further ado, we're going to address something right off the bat. Everybody and their dog has seen the talking heads on TV talking about gross health outcomes in the United States. They talk about how much money we spend, which is a princely sum, on healthcare every year. And then they bring up something that's a bit misleading that we're going to address right now. They bring up life expectancy at birth. And folks, this is one of the things that we need to, as an industry, do better at. When people bring up life expectancy at birth, we have to realize that that is a disingenuous matrix. And when you hear that, you think numbers don't lie, Tom. No, the way you count the numbers do. Inside the United States, outside of every country in the OECD, with the exception, and I believe I'm right, and this is 2023, as of 2023, outside of Norway, we are the only ones to count any birth with a sign of life as a live birth. Countries like Spain, Italy, Germany, Japan, South Korea, they have different systems of counting. And whether that starts at 24 weeks or at 28 weeks, which is where most of them do start. When you look at the WHO data, they normalize at 28 weeks. So when they look at life expectancy at birth, there's a bit of a difference between our numbers, and the rest of the OECD. We count every live birth. They count ones after 28 weeks. But where are the most, and I'm using math here, I'm not trying to poke at anybody, where are the most zeros in terms of life? It's the really premature kids, right? So we count those, we work on those, and we are able to have survival rates down to the 21st week. I believe that's the world record currently. All of those children that are born before 24 or before 28, depending on the country, are not counted. We do. We care and we pay for it. So when you normalize for that, our health outcomes are a whole hell of a lot better. All right? That's one of the things that we need to keep in mind, is that we're defending a system that is not completely broken. We're defending a system that has very bad PR, that has some components that are absolutely broken. But in general, if I'm the wealthy guy anywhere else in the world, where do I want to get a heart transplant? America. If I'm the wealthy guy anywhere else in the world, where do I want to send my child for cancer treatment? America. I can prove that to you because that's what they do. All right, and with that in mind, let's go through a little bit of the history of how we got from chickens for care, and I don't know why I like that line, to where we are today. And we're gonna start all the way back pre-World War I. Now there is some history, and there's a great conversation that I had in Philadelphia about the Civil War healthcare system and how it's kind of the genesis of the American model. But we're gonna start a little after that with the railroads. In America, when the railroads were king, the golden age of rail, most of the rail systems found out that they could provide an additional benefit, and they were heavily regulated their day. Think tech industry today. They could provide an additional benefit to their high-skilled laborers of medical care. And they could do this through a thing called steerage. Now, if you've been in the business for a while, you understand what steerage is. So it started really in Kansas, Topeka, Kansas. All of the injured rail workers would be sent on a car to Topeka to Stormont Vale, which is a hospital there. They would then consume care there and get better and then be sent back home. And that is the very beginning of employer-sponsored healthcare. You had the employers providing access and transportation for their valued team members in some cases, or just team members in general, to go to Topeka to get better, get treatment, and move forward. And that was the genesis of the system of employer paid for provided care. Outside of that, you had the unions who did a slightly different model. They had a model where you would hire a union doctor in some cases, and they would provide services for all of the members inside of Local 45. That model kind of was in competition with the employer-provided model until the beginning of World War II, or the beginning of the American involvement in World War II, at which point FDR passed a piece of legislation named the Stabilization Act of 1942 that amended the Emergency Price Control Act of 1942. And what that stated was that employers could no longer compete with wages to attract the best talent. Now, in complex adaptive systems, and I'm going to get kind of nerdy here, every action has a reaction, right? Everything causes something down channel. So when FDR mandated that you can't pay your new carpenter more than $5 a day, and I'm picking numbers, then what do you do as the business owner? You know that you have a lot of demand and you care about your product. Well, you're going to start competing in different ways. So what did they do? Well, they did a number of different things. These became known as fringe benefits. They provided childcare for women to enter the workforce. They provided free meals so that they would be on site earlier and leave later, breakfast and dinner. They also provided access to medical care. That became extremely valuable, especially for laborers who had spouses or women, wives that were pregnant. So with them providing these systems, this was a way for them to attract more labor and talent. There were rulings during the war that said this is not going to be considered as a wage and will not be taxable. Folks, that right there, that decision is really what gave us the genesis of our model against fee for maintenance versus fee for service. We have a fee for service model, and we have inherent tax advantages of providing the employee benefits through the employer. That is the genesis. So for the scope of this conversation, we're going to go up through the first level solution. You have all of these men who are coming home from the war, right? They're coming back and they are hard chargers. They've put their life on hold for 2, 3, 4 years, or 5 years in some cases. They're ready to get their life going, and they don't want to wait, and they don't have time for the BS of the modern world, right? They want it, and they want it to take care of. Because of that, they're gruff, they're direct, and they're also very low on corruption, very high on trust. They find somebody they trust, and they work with them, period. So what develops inside of the healthcare model based around that mentality and that group of really hard-charging, motivated people? You have a thing that's called fee for service, which we've already discussed, married with indemnity. What is indemnity? Indemnity is where, all right, I've got 5 employees. You go to the local doctor. I say I'm going to pay for it. All right, well, I said I'd pay for it. I'm going to pay for it. I'll figure it out, right? You can almost hear our grandparents speaking in that way, right? Hard, bright lines. Now, for that, they expect the doctor's office and the hospitals to also abide by those hard, bright lines. And if they don't, they'll get rid of them, right? This is the birth of indemnity. It's a very high trust model where if you go and you consume care, the employer is going to pay for it, right? This is the first model that comes up. Now, with our modern brains, we can look at that and say, man, there's a lot of opportunity for the Machiavellian class to go in and manipulate that, either through saying that they consume more care, increasing the prices, right, beyond what is reasonable because someone else guaranteed to pay, or through buying up of multiple systems and eliminating all of the bureaucracy, the good side of it, the efficiency side of it, right? So that's the first level solution, and those are the first level problems that were then sought to be fixed through the second level. The second level is what we'll cover in the next video. But that is a primer. We went from Civil War, which is the birth of organized medicine in the United States, to the trades, where they have steerage, and people are starting to see the idea of specialization inside of medicine instead of general practitioners, to World War II, where you have the codification of tax benefits for employee benefits paid for by the employer, to indemnity, the first level solution, which takes very gruff men in very small systems so that everybody can know, like, and trust each other. And then how we get from indemnity to today is a section for the next video. We'll see you out there. Thank you for the time. My name is Tom Stein Jr. We are American Trust Administrators, your level-funded group experts. We'll see you.